Hey guys, so I finally figured out the best way to get revenge on somebody. This is my neighbor's kid. He's coming over for dinner tonight.
Oh God, I hate Shakespeare.
William Shakespeare, also known as the Bard of Avon, lived for 52 years, from 1564 to 1616. He was born in a town called Stratford on the Avon River, about 100 miles north of London. A popular musical hit Broadway in 2015 about the life of the Bard, entitled Something Rotten, referencing his play Hamlet.
It's hard to be the bard, baby.
William lived in England his entire life. No birth records from the time exist, however, records from Holy Trinity Church in Stratford show that he was baptized on April 26, 1564. In his lifetime, William Shakespeare wrote about 37 plays and 156 poems. These numbers are rough estimations, and it is speculated that there may be more that remain undiscovered. Will's parents, John Shakespeare and Mary Arden, had 8 children. William was the third in line, however, his 2 older siblings died at very young ages, so Will spent most of his life as the oldest child, which explains how much of an overachiever he was. Around the year 1599, Will and some of his friends built a theater called the Globe, located on the bank of the Thames River. It seems to historians and researchers that William Shakespeare was quite a wealthy man, and it is believed that he acquired much of his fortune through investments in the Globe. Obtaining money through investment gave Will the time to pen his massive amount of literature. Some fun facts about Shakespeare are that Abraham Lincoln was actually a huge fan of Shakespearean plays, and it's reported that he often quoted lines from Shakespeare's plays to his friends and colleagues. John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Lincoln, was actually a famous Shakespearean actor during his time. Another interesting fact is that Shakespeare's longest play, Hamlet, takes 3 times longer to perform than his shortest play, The Comedy of Errors. A very interesting and little-known fact about Shakespeare is that it is speculated that Nick Bottom, a character inserted into a few of Shakespeare's plays, was actually a rival writer during Shakespeare's time of popularity. This is also why, when the character appears in Shakespeare's plays, it is always depicted as the fool or for comic relief. This speculation is taken as fact and exaggerated in the hit musical Something Rotten, which is told from Nick Bottom's point of view. Titus Andronicus is one of Shakespeare's tragedies, written sometime between 1588 and 1593. Of all Will's plays that have been discovered so far, Titus Andronicus seems to be his first tragedy ever written. It is a story of revenge which paved the way for his extremely popular revenge-centric plays created in the 17th century. It is one of Shakespeare's most graphic plays, which explains why literally one student has chosen the show in the history of the Shakespeare Project. At the beginning of the show, 2 brothers, Saturninus and Bassianus, are fighting over who should be the next emperor of Rome, since the old emperor just died. Then, a Roman army general, Titus Andronicus himself, returns home from the war with the Goths. Titus has returned with 4 out of his 25 sons, the queen of the Goths and her 3 sons, and a dude named Aaron, who used to be the queen's lover. When they get into town, Titus commits the very first act of revenge of the show. He lets his sons sacrifice the queen Tamora's oldest son by hacking him to bits. Marcus Andronicus, Titus's brother, tells him that all the people of the Roman Empire want Titus to be the new emperor, but Titus would rather retire, so he tells Saturninus that he can be the new emperor. Saturninus, as emperor, decides to take Tamora, the queen of the Goths, as his wife. Bassianus, Saturninus's brother, was already engaged to Titus's daughter, Lavinia. So, the 2 couples get married in one night, and they have a huge party. To make a long story short, Tamora plans revenge on Titus for the war on her people, and more importantly, killing her son. Tamora commands her sons to separate Lavinia, Titus's daughter, from the group and physically harm her to get to Titus. Specifically, they cut off her hands and cut out her tongue so that she cannot say who did this. Then, Tamora frames Titus's remaining sons for the murder of Saturninus's brother. Saturninus, in an attempt to get back at Titus for his sons murdering his brother, tricks Titus into chopping off his own hand by promising to spare the lives of his sons. In the end, Saturninus sends a messenger to Titus with the heads of his 2 executed sons and his disembodied hand. Titus decides to get revenge on Saturninus by commanding his only remaining son, Lucius, to gather an army of the Goths against Saturninus. While Lucius is gathering the army of the Goths, Titus, Marcus, and Lavinia hang out at home. Lavinia somehow effectively communicates that Tamora's sons are culpable for her missing tongue and hands. Later, Lucius has returned with an army to fight Saturninus. In this second-to-last scene, Tamora and her sons visit Titus's house in an attempt to find Lucius to stop him from taking the palace. Tamora believes that she has fooled Titus by disguising herself as the spirit of revenge. However, he only pretends that he buys it.
Thus, in this strange and sad habiliment, I will encounter with Andronicus, and say I am revenge, sent from below, to join with him, and right his heinous wrongs.
Who doth molest my contemplation? It is your trick to make me open the door, so that my sad decrees may fly away.
Titus, I am come to talk with thee.
No, not a word.
If thou didst know me, thou wouldst talk with me.
I am not mad. I know thee well enough. Witness this wretched stump. Witness these crimson lines. Witness all sorrow, that I know thee well. For our proud empress, mighty Tamora, is not thy coming for my other hand?
No, thy sad man, I am not Tamora. She is thy enemy. I am thy friend. I am revenge, sent from the infernal kingdom.
Do me some service, ere I come to thee.
These are my ministers, and they come with me.
Are these thy ministers? Good Lord, how like the Empress's sons they are, and you the Empress. But we worldly men have miserable, mad, mistaking eyes. O sweet revenge, now I do come to thee, and if one arm's embracement will content thee, I will embrace thee in it by and by.
This then fits his lunacy, for now he firmly takes me for revenge, and, being credulous in this mad thought, I'll make him send for Lucius, his son. I'll find some cunning practice out of hand to scatter and disperse the giddy Goths, or at least make them his enemies. See, here he comes, and I must ply my theme.
Long have I been forlorn, and all for thee. Welcome, dread fury, to my house. How like the Empress and her sons you are. Could not all hell afford you such a devil? And would you represent our queen aright? But welcome as you are, what shall we do?
But would it please thee, good Andronicus, to send for Lucius, thy thrice valiant son, who leads towards Rome a band of warlike Goths, and bid him come and banquet at thy house? When he is here, even at thy solemn feast, I will bring in the Empress and her sons, and the Emperor himself, and all thy foes. And at thy mercy they shall stoop and kneel, and on them shalt thou ease thy angry heart. What says thou, Andronicus, to this device?
Marcus, my brother, 'tis said, Titus. Go, gentle Marcus, to thy nephew, Lucius. Tell him the Emperor and the Empress feast at my house, and he shall feast with them. Do this, thou, for my love, and so let him, as he regards to his aged father's life.
This I will do, and soon return again.
Now will I hence about thy business, and take my ministers along with me.
Nay, nay, let them stay with me, or else I'll call my brother back again.
What say you, boys?
Madam, depart at pleasure. Leave us here.
Farewell, Andronicus. Revenge now goes to betray thy foes.
So tell us, old man, How should we be employed?
I have enough work for you to do. Publius, come hither.
What is your will?
Know you these two?
The Emperor's sons, I checked them? Chiron and Demetrius?
Bind them, Publius. Oft have you heard me wish for such an hour, and now I find it. Therefore, bind them sure, and stop their mouths if they begin to cry.
Villains forbade! We are the Empress's sons! And therefore, do we what we are commanded.
Come, Lavinia. Look, here are thy foes. Publius, stop their mouths. Let them not speak to me. O villains, Chiron and Demetrius, here stands the spring on whom you have stained with mud, this goodly summer with your winter mixed. You killed her husband, and for that vile fault, 2 of her brothers were condemned to death. My hand cut off and made a merry jest. Both her hands and her tongue. What should you say if I should let you talk? Villains, for shame you could not beg for grace. Hark, wretches, this one hand yet is left to cut your throats, whilst that Lavinia between her stumps doth the basin hold, that receives your guilty blood. You know your mother means to feast with me, and calls herself Revenge, and thinks me mad. Hark, villains, I will grind your bones to dust, and with your blood I'll make it a paste, and make 2 pies of your shameful heads. This is the feast that I have bid her to, and this banquet she shall feast on. Lavinia, come, receive the blood. So now bring them in, and I'll play the cook, to see them ready against their mother.
When Tamora returns for dinner, Titus has cooked into pies the blood and bones of Tamora's children, which she proceeds to eat. Then, in a climactic moment, Titus kills his own daughter, since he cannot bear to look at her. He announces that Tamora's sons have just been eaten by the guests, and then stabs and kills Tamora herself. Saturninus then stabs Titus, avenging his wife, and Lucius stabs Saturninus, avenging his father. After this bloody feast, Lucius becomes the new emperor of Rome.